All right, Sked. Welcome. It's another Andor Wednesday.
You're so fancy. Yeah, that was good. I like that. Yeah, that intro piece. That was lovely.
I think there's going to be a quick clip of us just standing here like this.
Yeah. No one even saw it. We're just...
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. It was well done. I think it was shown. It looked good, bud.
Yeah. It's about time I look at some of the free features on this software, right?
Now you make me feel bad because I haven't done any of them.
No. Okay, everyone. We had episode 4 of Star Wars Andor. We're coming off what I rated very highly the first 3 episodes.
Scarily high.
Ged, you were high, just not nearly as high as I was.
You were the highest in the room, as I once heard
And I was not high watching it. I was stone sober. I was into it, gripped on the edge of my seat. And this week continues the story of exactly where we left off. A lot, very similar to last week. There was a lot to take in. The story's building, the tension's building. We're starting to learn the stakes. We're starting to uncover a little bit. The show looks gorgeous. So let's kind of hop into a few moments. We see Andor pick up, leaving. He's throwing around whether or not he can trust his savior. What's his name? Luthen. And we still don't really know. Well, we find out a lot more about Luthen this episode. So basically, he agrees to help out the rebel cell. He finds himself on the planet where they're training. But I want to start where I think probably a lot of people's highlights of the episode is going to be. Finally, how long have I been asking to go back to Coruscant? I
mean, forever. As soon as I saw it, literally all I could think about was Tyler's going to be so happy we're going. And this is post-Republic. This is Coruscant now with no Jedi Temple. This is Coruscant in full corporate swing of the Empire. I was so pumped to see it.
Yeah, and it really did look. It looked great. It looked really good. And like you said, it's a different Coruscant we're actually seeing. We are seeing the first building we're treated to is the ISB. Was it the headquarters? I think so. So the Imperial Security Bureau, right?
Yeah.
We see kind of like a roundtable meeting of the mines, and we get some cool dialogue as to what the ISB actually does.
Yeah.
And just for refresher's sake for other people, like in Rogue One, for example, Director Krennic was a director of the ISB. The white jackets and everything like that. Normally, white jackets were reserved for Moffs. But it looks like, with the Rogue One lore and all the other lore, ISBs are also all donned in the white. So we see an interesting scene where they're just doing reports and a lot of Easter eggs. So I've seen some of the complaints I've seen about the show is A, boring, B, that there's not going to be this connection to Star Wars, Easter eggs and stuff like that. But so far 4 episodes in, that couldn't be any farther from the truth. They have jammed so many cool references into this show. So just in the ISB stuff, we see he talks about there's a conflict or there's a mining disaster or something to do with mining on Arvala 6, right? Arvala 7 is the planet we see in Mando where he first finds Grogu. So not the same planet, but you got to figure it's one in the same system, right?
Yeah.
There's also a line about, hey, we got to start protecting the shipping lines going to Scarif.
And this timing, this timing is similar to Mando?
No. Way before.
Oh, it is way before. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. This is this is 5 years, I believe, before Rogue One. Whereas Mando
That's right.
is 5 years post Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
No, sorry, that's right. My apologies.
So we get that. We get the shout out to Scarif, which is cool. And then they briefly talk about the incident we see in episodes 1 to 3. But I thought there's something interesting here, though. And this is actually a little bit of a nitpick for me. I can't remember his name, but the main ISB kind of leader there running the meeting does this whole speech about what do they do, and he talks about how they diagnose the symptoms and they snuff stuff out before it becomes
they're healthcare providers.
Yeah, healthcare provider.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great way of explaining it. But when you flash forward to the one of the last scenes when the female ISB agent who's in charge of the jurisdiction that lost the box that Cassian had and is she thinks that there's obviously some coordination rebel cell going on. And the other guy doesn't want to give up his jurisdictions because it seems like the more you handle, the higher in regard you are, right? That's how they're getting up to promotions. So he thinks that the power play.
He had like 5 or 6, right?
Yeah, so he had 6. And the leader dude basically says, it's not enough for me to do anything on. Like, you have to bring back concrete evidence. And I just can't help but think about his opening speech is like they're there to discover the symptoms before anything becomes a disease, and I feel like she's done that.
Yeah, that's a good nitpick.
That's fair. He doesn't want to act on it. So I felt it kind of contradicted it a little bit, but like I get it. Maybe a little more proof is your symptom, right? But I just thought. But again, I thought that like without that last little scene, that intro scene of the round table, I thought was great. Just like you're just getting the inside view of how Imperials operate, how they work, right? Like how the Empire is running their business.
Hold on, very, very quickly before we move on to that, and I'd really like to get your sincere input on this. There's something that jumped out at me from the first series of 3 episodes to what we're seeing now versus what we believe the Empire to be, and something jumped out, and I'm dying to know your thoughts on this. So I interpret the Empire as an act full force, unlimited resources. We have all the clone troops or all the recruits we need. Investigate anything and everything. Decimate everything in the path. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in this, we see and Cassian made mention of it in that first chunk, was very fat and very satisfied. There's not really a lot of fire under the ass. And to me, there's that arrogance, that hubris of a very victorious empire right now, where unless there's concrete evidence, I'm really not going to put any effort into it. But to me, that's so different than when you get into things like A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, where even just the slight mention of something, there would be a battalion out there.
Yeah, and I think...
Am I off on that? Am I the only one that kind of jumped at it? It just seems like they're so confident that they really don't have to do that. I don't know, thoughts?
Yeah, so my interpretation would be the galaxy is a large place. And now that, back in the Clone Wars, right, you had Republic, you had the Sis, like the Separatists, like controlling half and half stuff. Then you had like Hutt space, you had all these different territories, right? Now that it's like the Empire wants to try to run everything, but they can't, right? Like the Outer Rim, like we even see in Mando, like the Outer Rim is like kind of, not really controlled all that much. But I think the Empire, and from a strategy perspective, they probably moved to control all what they deemed important, worlds, whether they're transportation hubs, they have something to offer them as far as supply or building and stuff like that. They probably strategically place their chess pieces right to what they need to hold control in order to not only hold their power but grow it. And then the other thing too is they're also secretly building a Death Star, which takes a small army at this point. So I think a lot of these, and to your point, I think there's a lot of people who, now that the Empire's there, somewhat established in a lot of these core worlds, mid-core worlds, they probably don't, like Cassian kind of elusive, they probably don't believe that people would actually dare to challenge them.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that belief is probably there, that they actually don't think it. And we see that in the Rebels series, animated series that plays out, right? Like they score bigger and bigger hits to the point where it's like, oh shit, like something is going on here. We got to call in the big guns. Yeah, I think we're going to work towards that.
Yeah.
And we kind of already see it, right? Like we start off with just corporate security monitoring, you know, those two worlds in the first 3 episodes, and now we have the Empire has taken control.
Full
right?
Empire.
So even though they're not worried that much about the investigation, corporate security has already been axed. Like Empire has now moved in. And I loved even that scene. You can see the troop with the helmet on the back with the holding the blaster rifles. Everyone's packing up. Like it was just like, we're moving in. It's now, you know, the Empire's jurisdiction. So yeah, I think that's what's kind of going on, to answer your question.
Okay, fair enough. It just seemed like such a different mentality. There was so much more of a desperate feeling in those later movies where they would jump the gun on everything. And here they're very strategic. They're very conservative. It just such
well, they're
a
also
mentality.
they're not necessarily at active war either with anybody really right now, right? Obviously, there's probably skirmishes on some fronts a little bit, but more or less it was just like, you know, because you got to remember the Empire was the Galactic Republic, right? It just reformed into an empire. So I think people are just getting comfortable with, you know, with the way the galaxy is. And then you obviously have people who and then you obviously have people who see some of the atrocities that happen, and that's what, you know, creates your little spark, your seed. Okay, so sticking with Coruscant, we got, I thought, was a very, very interesting sequence here when we're first introduced to Mon Mothma in the series. She rolls up to a store, which I would only describe as the shopping district, like the Champs-Élysées of Coruscant. And she rolls up in a speeder that more or less looks like a Rolls Royce, and she rolls out with her driver, and then we see you know, Buddy's character, his cover is just so 100% flipped. It's hilarious. Like his mannerism, the way he talks.
The flow.
Yeah, the flow. He's like blinged up. Like I thought it was great because he's really like, no one would ever take me as like this grimy leader of like a rebel cell. Yeah. Well, I guess we don't even really know what he is yet, but
not even allowed to be talked about apparently.
Yeah, like they're still holding that card as to like where he stands with everything. But you know, that his artifact store, museum, antique store, whatever you want to call it, was loaded with Easter eggs. Almost everything on a shelf had a purpose and had a backstory.
Oh, really? I didn't look at it very closely, but I knew when it was walking in, I figured you would have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, so like I saw like the Mando armor when we first walked in and like the Gungan shield, and then, you know, didn't really see, everything was kind of fast, right? And then when I was setting up this video and the tags, I see one of the tags that are trending is Andor Star Killer. I'm like, how did I miss a Star Killer reference? So sure enough, Star Killer's helmet sitting like right in the middle of the artifact store. And I see you looking at me like, what the heck? Because are you aware of the Star Killer? Yeah. So the fact that they're bringing Galen, like, again, it might not necessarily be Star Killer. It could just be an Easter egg. This is a cool helmet that you've seen in a video game. But, you know, it's kind of cool because I think you saw in Kenobi, one of the names on the wall was Ram Koda, who's also from the Force Unleashed video game as well. So I don't know if they're dropping subtle breadcrumbs here that we're going to get something to do with Star Killer in the future, but like, awesome. The one that I really loved Easter egg wise was we saw the Katakori. Is that what they were called? Hera's, you know, her family artifact thing the Thrawn takes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I absolutely remember that.
Yeah, like one of those was hanging on the wall, but he also had, you know, in the World Between Worlds Rebels episode, you know how that big rock wall was, you know, the Mortis gods paintings and stuff like that.
Yes,
there's a chunk of rock with the hand and like the big star astral symbol and all that stuff around it. So like he has like a piece of the Mortis gods like wall in there.
I did not notice that, but that's amazing.
Yeah, so like again, like some people complain that this show was kind of Easter eggs. To have that many deep cuts, like anything to the Mortis gods, like I love. So the fact that they 100%. Just even have that in there, like that's awesome.
The three episodes of Mortis are probably amongst my top 3 to 5 episodes of any of the Rebels or Clone Wars series. I mean, I've probably gone back to watch those episodes 2 or 3 times now. They're so good.
Yeah. So there's a lot more in there. So, you know, if anyone's interested, I'd suggest slow down that scene or find someone who's done a breakdown of every one, because it's loaded with stuff. Very cool to see. So we get basically Mon Mothma saying like she's been funding the rebellion essentially herself. Like she's been funneling the money, and she's feeling the heat right now. She's saying there's spies everywhere. They got to hide from her driver. Like there's like nonstop. They're replacing people. Everyone in her life is being changed out. She said the people at the bank are different every time she goes. Yeah. I find it funny too when she's talking about this stuff. She's in like a high end store. She's talking about going to the bank. Like it just felt like such a different Star Wars story. I know it's like remedial tasks that we would think on Earth, but just seeing it in Star Wars was just, I don't know, it's just interesting.
Fair. Yeah.
And then we have we also find out she has a husband.
Yep.
Which you didn't really know.
Nope.
And we meet him. He's setting up a table for a big dinner. And the big plot point here is she looks at the guest list and sees Sly Moore on the guest list. Now, Sly Moore, if you're not aware, you know, Palpatine always rolled around with there's 3 of them. Palps, Mazamata is like the big blue alien dude, and then you get the bald girl beside him. The bald girl is Sly Moore. So she's like,
oh, I didn't know that.
She is like in Palpatine's circle. She knows Palpatine's Darth Sidious. She's force sensitive, and she's obviously a politician. And you know, Mon Mothma indicates like I go up against her. Like she slaps every
day
movement I try to do in the Senate. Like slaps me down like on the Senate floor. And now she's coming to dinner.
Yeah, I've got a bad feeling about this husband of Mon Mothma.
And the husband also, it's kind of hilarious too, because he just seems so like disinterested in all that. He just seems like he just wants to get drunk. Like he's just looking for a good time. Was like the vibe I got from. So it'll be interesting if he's like sitting next to Sly Moore, like, you know, playing like another side of it, and she's just stewing over in the corner. It's weird to say I'm excited for a dinner in an episode in the future Star Wars episode, but I'm very intrigued at what's going to happen. And just because knowing Mon Mothma, you know, the secret leader of the rebellion, is going to dinner with one of Palpatine's right hands. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, that's a great setup for what's to come. And then, you know, we get the Cassian stuff. They're prepared for the mission. You know, the classic stuff, like they don't trust him. You know, they've been told he's potentially expendable if he gets in the way, and he
drops them on them without warning.
Yeah.
So there's obviously so much there. So Luthen literally says, I came there for you. I didn't care about what you had. And then he drops him into this. He's able to recount how he spent his days fighting in a battle. Like there's something there. There's way more to that story. Like I feel like he's been searching for him for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
This is not I know about this guy, I'm going to go get him. Like, he's been searching for a while.
And we didn't get any flashbacks this week. So the soul sister search for the sister storyline kind of got halted for the time being. And we've seen in the trailers, there's trailers of like the TIE fighter fight, and it looks like they're in a big storm of like orange and fire and all that. Now we know that that's the, you know, the 1 to 3 year event they're waiting for. Yeah.
I'm so pumped for that scene. It's gonna be
I'm assuming
gorgeous.
it's going to be within the next 2 episodes. I don't know how much, if they got to do more setup to get to that climactic point.
Yeah, but it's 3 days, right?
Yeah, it's going to be 5 or 6. So we know that's coming. We know now what all those scenes are about. So we know that we're going to see some pretty cool spectacle of them trying to, you know, fly this freighter out of the base.
He's like, it's not really flying, but
try to escape TIE fighters, fly it through the storm, and then jump to safety. So we know where Cassian's story is heading right now. I think I'm waiting for that to play out for the action, right? I think we're going to see some cool stuff. we might see some stuff where Cassian has to kind of go solo on this because the crew doesn't trust him. Maybe that's kind of a thread that they pull, and then he does some heroic ass shit that vaults him up in the rankings and the respect level of everybody. Likely. But like I said, a lot of intrigue happening on Coruscant. And the other thing of note too, we only got a little bit. What was the guy's name? Karm, the security cop from the first 3. Karm, so that was.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I know he had a bit of a rough day.
So he's sent packing, and he goes home, which looks like he's on Coruscant. It didn't actually say. But cool thing, when the shuttle lands, you could hear the overhead voice talk about Hosnian Prime, and that's the base. That's one of the planets that Starkiller kills. Starkiller base blows up in Force Awakens.
Yeah,
that was the capital of the New Republic, right? So
that's right.
That was a cool shout out there. So do you think he's pissed? So is he pissed that I need to prove a point and maybe track down these rebels who got the best of me myself? Or is he pissed at the Empire and he's going to turn rebellious? Where do you think his story ends up?
I think he tries. I would love to see him turn rebellious, but I don't think that he will. I think you're going to see your first option. You're going to see him go after Malone.
Yeah, go lone wolfing. Because he looks, he's pissed.
Him and that Scottish guy.
Yeah,
they are 100% going to go back solo looking for him.
All right. And
he's
now,
going to do that. He's going to do that to try and get back into his station.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's so much stuff to talk about this episode. I don't want to spend a million, all the time on Easter eggs and like references, but looking forward, now we're getting Sly more. We got Mon Mothma in play on Coruscant. Will we get Palpatine? Will we get Vader, Thrawn, Tarkin, Governor Price, Krennic? Will we see any of like the big Imperial baddies make a cameo or show up for a decent amount in this show? What do you think?
I think we'll get a Thrawn teaser because of Ahsoka coming.
I think it'd be wise to maybe show Thrawn because it would connect people who haven't seen Rebels. It would connect kind of his standing in the Empire for the setup, what's going on in Mando.
Yeah.
But he's definitely active at that time. Krennic would probably make the most sense since he is ISB, but I don't think we're getting Krennic had his movie. I don't think they're getting Ben Mendelsohn back. I don't think we're getting a Vader.
No.
No. I don't think we're getting Tarkin because they'd have to CGI the face and everything like they did.
I don't think we're getting Palpatine.
Well, I was gonna say I think we'll get Palps. He's the like the leader of the Senate. You know what I mean?
Oh,
when
that's
they're in those
fair.
Senate meetings, like I could see Sly Moore or Mazameta sitting up in the center as like his delegate, but I could see Palpatine either coming in the finale or something like that if like Mon Mothma's causing stuff, or even just like a hologram message like he was in at the end of Kenobi.
Fair. Yeah. No. I'll give you that. But yeah, I agree. We definitely need to see some Thrawn.
Yeah, I think it'd be a cool setup. So before we score this, I just want to break down one kind of complaint I have.
All right.
It's nothing to do with the show itself. It has to do with how they release these episodes and the length. So for a show that's, a slow burn for most part, like I don't want to call this episode filler at all. Like there was a ton of stuff going on, but it is very slow, deliberate plotting through it. Only getting 30 minutes, 35 minutes of it, it just isn't enough. You know what I mean? That slow burn is starting to like burn a little hotter, and then it's just like off, done for a week. Like I feel like if there's any show to increase the runtime, like this has given us, there's 12 episodes in season 1, right? Like Kenobi was only 6 episodes long. Like you could have gave us double episodes every single week. To go from the first 3 episodes and like how well they flowed together into this week, and you're just getting like the little 30-minute look, and then you're already out of it again.
It did seem like they just chiseled away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering,
I'll give you that.
Considering like maybe the next episode is even just setting up like it could very well be the dinner and them disguising themselves on that plan as the locals and walking towards the event. You know what I mean? Like to have, maybe you need those two together to build up to the climax. It was just my one thing I noticed. I was so much more happier last week when that slow burn, you got to sit through the whole thing to escalate to the escape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this one, we're just getting part one. And again, like I said, it's a minor gripe. Like maybe the show would be better off for like, you know, obviously I'm going to watch it every week, but maybe it's better off for some people to sit down and binge.
It's a bit of a binger.
I
agree that this would be
so you get the payoff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's score it. So I was super high last week, 8.8. Was that what it was? 8.8, right?
Mm-hmm.
This week was also strong, but like I'm not feeling as amped because I feel like we didn't get the complete story. So just on this one alone, I'm gonna go 8.4 this week.
Okay. Last week I went 8.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 8.1 because I was so happy to see Coruscant. I was so happy to get a feel for the Empire's reign in Coruscant. I think the diversity and the mystery behind the character Luthen, seeing Mon Mothma was amazing. I will score it a bit higher than I scored the first three. Yep.
And like obviously the Easter eggs and the lore for the hardcore fans is great, but just in general, if you're just watching it as a show, you don't know anything. Like the acting again was fantastic. Like Luthen is a standout. Mon Mothma killed her scenes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm glad she's.
And the language is staying grown up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They like to repeat. Did they say ass this time around?
They said ass.
They did, right? So we got a new swear word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like I don't know. I'm happy that Mon Mothma and Genevieve O'Reilly, who plays her, is getting a lot more screen time, right? Because in Return of the Jedi, obviously it was a different actress. There she gets the one mission briefing scene. That's it. And in Revenge of the Sith, there's like just a handful of little things like that's it, right? So now in Rebels, there was a lot more role for Mon Mothma that's animated. So now I'm glad that there's actually some significant parts for her, and it looks like she's going to be a big part of the future. And for someone as significant as she was, right? Like in Return of the Jedi, they just drop it on us, right? Okay, oh, here's Mon Mothma. She's the leader of this entire thing. When like, I don't know, as a casual fan, right? It's like, isn't like Princess Leia or someone else like that like actually the leader of the rebellion? But no, it's always been Mon Mothma. So I'm glad we're getting her character a lot more fleshed out, and the risk that she has to take, you know, to basically
great story
grow the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm hooked. It does feel like grown-up Star Wars, but it still feels like Star Wars to me. There's so like, and even watching a show like this, I still can't think back to Kenobi and just think like, man, and even the Book of Boba Fett, like if they just took the care that this team that's doing this show did on those shows, like what they could have been even more so. I should look up.
It suits the flavor of the character, though. I mean, obviously, the writer for this as doing for the guy who did for the person who did the Bourne series. I mean, you can absolutely tell they're doing a great job.
Yeah, Tony Gilroy was only going to do
Rogue One was a grown-up Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
Rogue One was a grown-up Star Wars movie. The series is in that same visual.
Yeah,
but Obi-Wan goes back 40 years. There's no way you were going to get that with him.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen.
And I love pissing people off by saying stuff like this, but I by this point, no one's going to be watching it anyway. So gotta give Kathleen Kennedy a shout out on this one. For as many L's she takes, she's got to get a W for this one, because
this is a big dub.
Green lighting a show about Cassian Andor, like kind of a middle of the road meh character from Rogue One, right? To give him his own series. And then to hand it over to Tony Gilroy and just say, hey, you write this and like do magic with this show. And like, just so far, so good. Like what, like again, like this show could have been a complete fucking dumpster fire.
100%.
This could have been the nail in the coffin for some people at Lucasfilm, but it's proving, again, we don't know how it's going to end, but so far 4 episodes in, love what I'm seeing.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. So that will wrap it up for us. Let us know in the comments, everybody. Did you like this episode? Are you enjoying Andor? and let us, you know what, let me know some theories on where you think some of the stuff's going to go. And yeah, and if you're also excited for the dinner for schmucks coming in next episode.
The dinner for schmucks. I like it.
All right, Ged. Anything you want to shout out?
Nothing. Just took this week off from our House of Dragon stuff. I had some outside work and outside streaming stuff that took massive priority. So we'll be back next Monday. Looking forward to having you on there as always. And see you next Wednesday.
Yep. So anyone who's interested, we will be over on Ged's channel, typically on Monday nights, 9 p.m., doing House of the Dragon reviews just like this, just in reverse chairs. So if you're interested in it, by all means,
I don't have fancy music though. I should probably work on some fancy music, maybe a little intro. That was good.
All right. Peace out, everyone. We'll see y'all next week.